Long ago, in the village of Nukwe, nestled between lush green forests and a mighty river, there lived a kind and noble queen named Neka. Though she ruled with wisdom and grace, her heart ached with sorrow she had no child. She prayed to the gods, made offerings at the shrine, and even sought the wisdom of the village elders, but no child came. One evening, as the full moon bathed the river in silver light, Queen Neka walked to the water's edge, her feet sinking into the cool sand. Tears streamed down her face as she knelt, speaking to the river as if it were alive. "Oh, great spirits of the water, I have everything a woman could wish for: wealth, power, and a loving husband. Yet my arms remain empty, and my heart aches for a child. Please bless me with a daughter, and I will love her with all my soul." The river whispered in the wind, the waves lapping gently at her feet. Then, as if in response, the water shimmered, and from its depths a glowing figure emerged. It was the river goddess, her skin dark as the night, and her eyes glowing like the moon. "Neka," the goddess spoke, her voice echoing like rushing waters. "Your heart is pure, and your love is strong. I will bless you with a daughter. But know this, she will belong to the river as much as she belongs to you. Harm must never come to her, for the river watches over its own." Before Neka could respond, the goddess dissolved into the water, and a strange warmth filled the queen's body. That night, she dreamt of a baby wrapped in flowing water, and within moons, she found herself with child. When the queen gave birth, the entire kingdom rejoiced. The baby girl had skin as smooth as river stones, eyes as deep as the water, and a strange but beautiful mark on her forehead, a small wave-like symbol. The king named her Adanna, meaning daughter of her father, but the queen knew she was also the daughter of the river. Adanna grew to be a remarkable child. The water called to her in ways no one could explain. While other children feared the deep currents, she played in the river with ease, swimming as though she belonged to it. Fishermen often saw fish circling protectively around her, and elders whispered that she was blessed. But not everyone celebrated her gifts. Years passed, and just when Adanna turned 5, Queen Neka fell gravely ill. The best healers and herbalists tried to save her, but it was no use. With her last breath, she held Adanna close. "Never forget, my child, the river will always protect you." The entire kingdom mourned the loss of their beloved queen, but none suffered more than Adanna. Without her mother's love, she became quiet and lonely. Seeing the child's sorrow, the king decided to remarry, believing a new queen would bring happiness back to the palace. Her name was Olamma, and she was as beautiful as she was cunning. To the people, she seemed gentle and kind, but in truth, she was full of envy. She resented Adanna from the moment she arrived, for she saw how much the king adored his daughter. Olamma longed to bear the king a son, someone who would inherit the throne instead of Adanna. But the gods had their own plans years past, and she bore no children. Anger burned in her heart, and soon, that anger turned to hatred. When Adanna was 7, the king left for war, leading his warriors against an invading kingdom. Before he departed, he made one thing clear: "Take care of my daughter, she is my heart." Olamma smiled and nodded, but the moment he was gone, her mask fell away. She had no intention of taking care of Adanna. Instead, she devised a cruel plan to rid herself of the girl forever. One stormy night, while the village was asleep, Olamma crept into Adanna's chambers. She covered the child's mouth to keep her silent and carried her out into the night. The rain poured down as Olamma walked to the riverbank, her heart pounding. With a wicked smile, she whispered, "You were never meant to be queen. The river gave you life for now, let it take you back." And with that, she threw the child into the raging waters. As Adanna sank beneath the surface, she did not struggle. She felt no fear. The water cradled her gently, whispering to her in a language only her soul could understand. She opened her eyes and gasped. She was no longer in the river but in a vast underwater palace. Golden fish swam around her, and luminous plants swayed like dancers in the current. A soft, familiar voice called her name. "Adanna!" She turned and saw a figure walking toward her, the river goddess. "You are home, my child," the goddess said, touching Adanna's forehead. "Your mother's love and my blessing have protected you. Now you will grow strong under my care." And so, Adanna stayed in the river's depths, learning its ancient secrets. She was taught the songs of the water, the language of the fish, and the healing power of the waves. Time moved differently in the river. What seemed like only days to her were years in the mortal world. Meanwhile, back in the village, drought struck. The river that had once brought life to the kingdom had dried up. Crops withered, animals perished, and people grew desperate. The elders claimed it was the gods' punishment, but no one knew why. The king returned from war, only to find his land in ruin and his beloved daughter missing. When he demanded answers, Olamma feigned sorrow. "She drowned, my king," she wept. "She wandered too close to the river, and before I could save her, she was gone." The king was devastated, but just as he fell to his knees in grief, a strong wind blew across the land, and the sky darkened. The villagers ran to the riverbank, gasping in awe as the dry riverbed began to glow. From the light, a figure emerged. It was Adanna. She had grown into a radiant young woman, her presence commanding and powerful. The villagers fell to their knees in reverence, realizing she was no ordinary girl, she was divine. Adanna raised her hand, and the river roared back to life, flowing stronger and richer than ever before. The land turned green once more, the sky cleared, and the drought ended. Then, she turned to Olamma, her voice calm but firm. "You took my life, but the river gave it back to me. You betrayed not just me, but the gods themselves." At that moment, the ground beneath Olamma's feet crumbled. The river surged forward, pulling her in. She screamed, but there was no mercy left for her. The water swallowed her whole, and she was never seen again. With justice restored, Adanna embraced her father, who wept tears of joy. She stayed in the village, ruling with wisdom and kindness. But whenever the full moon shone on the river, she would walk to its edge and listen. And if you listened closely, you could hear the water whisper back. For Adanna was not just a queen. She was the daughter of the river,